Hello everyone, welcome to this month's workshop. Today we're doing something a little different. We're not really going to focus on Quirkos very much, but we're going to look at using a particular platform for online surveys, and that platform is eServe. Now, I've spent quite a little bit of time recently looking at different online platforms, trying to find one that is fully free and has all the kind of features that you might want to do in a survey, allows you customization, doesn't have any restrictions on the number of people that respond to the survey or the number of questions, or has some kind of restriction where you have to pay before you can export the data. And this platform, which is eserve.org, seems to be a pretty good alternative. It doesn't have any restrictions. It's funded by a consortium of universities, which means it's fully available for anyone to use, as it says, for any purpose. So I just thought what I'd do is, there's not very much documentation for this platform, so just do a quick kind of overview video guide that then people can use to create a kind of online survey for research or feedback or whatever they want to do. So all you need to do is sign up for a free account. It's very simple. You just need to put in an email address and password. When you do that, it will then send you a confirmation email, and that will give you a link you need to click in to activate your account. When you've done that, you can just log in as you normally would into a website with your username and password. And then you'll be greeted with this main screen here, which is where you manage all of your surveys, and you can have lots of different surveys on the go at the time and past surveys, and it keeps it all in here. And there seems to be very few restrictions, if any, I can find on the number of surveys that you can have active and the number of responses. So it's very useful, even if you're doing from anything from small to large surveys. Seems to work very well. It's customizable. So let's go through all the different steps to create a survey. You can see here there's a test survey which I've created earlier and all the different options here. But what we're actually going to do is start and create a new one. So just click on the new survey button here, and it offers you a quick tour if you want to take a guide through some of the main features. I'm going to go over most of those things here, so we'll cancel that for now. And this is the kind of first page for your survey, and some basic options here. So you just click here to put in a name for your survey. Today we're going to do, as an example, of feedback for a restaurant. So we'll call this restaurant survey. And this is something that's going to appear on the survey page. And then a title for the page. So feedback for a restaurant. And then a page description here if you wanted to have some kind of long text here. Now, when you click on any of these text boxes, you get here a bewildering variety of different options for things that you can include in your survey in the text or in the questions. So you've got standard things here to format the text, bold, italic, underline, etc., to change the alignment here, do block quotes, insert special characters, change the language, put in links, even pictures, videos, flash animations, smileys, special characters, equations. So you've got all these kind of different options which allow you to change the style and how your survey looks. For now, we're just going to leave the defaults because we're going to change the overall style a little later. But just here, let's put in a little bit of description, because this content description for the page is something that people will see when they come to the survey. So we'll just put in a little description here. So we're just putting in saying, thank you for visiting our restaurant. Please let us know any feedback. Now we just need to click the save button here. Now everything in eServe comes as a little pop-up box when you change the options, so make sure you click the save button to change that. And there we've got that there. We can also have a little, there's a survey footer here, so we can put a little message at the bottom of the page. So we might say here, thank you for completing the survey, or something like that. And the questions will be added between the description at the top and the footer at the bottom. So what we've got here is actually a kind of page setup. So this is the first page of our survey, but what we can actually do is add more pages if we want to, anytime here. And that will allow us to have a survey with multiple pages that flow from one to the other. And there are also piping options, which mean that you can have only a page show if people answer a particular question. For example, if somebody says, I didn't like the service, you can ask a question on the page saying, what was wrong with the service? How could we improve the service? And use those particular wording. So kind of an interactive survey. That's basically the overall settings here. The main part of the survey is in these add question boxes. So you've got a couple of different options here. You can add a new question, which is most of what we're going to be focusing on, but you can also put in a block of text if you wanted to have a kind of longer description after a particular section about what this section is about. So we'll start with add a new question here, put our first question into the survey. We can always reorder these later, so there's no worry about changing our minds. Very flexible to alter at any stage, even after you've launched the survey. So the most important drop down is this one here, which where you choose the type of question. I'm going to go through most of these in order, but first of all, just give a quick overview. There's the multiple choice here. So this is where you can have only one answer for a question. Multiple choice checkbox. You can have multiple choices for a question. For example, which of these TV shows do you watch? And you can choose multiple options. Drag and drop ranking. It's quite an interesting one where you can say, for example, which of these factors is most important in our service? And then you can have someone move around a series of responses into an order from top to bottom. You can also let people give a star rating, for example, for service, for quality of food, for ambience, or something like that. You can have also text boxes. So this is where you put in open-ended and qualitative text responses. You can also have a matrix of choices. So this is quite useful if you're doing, for example, wanting ranking across a variety of different elements. So if you wanted people to rank from strongly agree to strongly disagree for a series of different options, like, for example, you can ask questions about, again, the service, the price, the quality of the food, and how much you agree with those different things. So you can get a kind of grid response for that. Multiple text boxes, if you want to set up something like an address, just got lots of different things. You can also insert pictures and text. Again, another way to put in more contextual information. Another order ranking there, and a slider. So you could give someone actually an analog slider to indicate how much they liked a particular function of your survey here. So for first of all, let's put in a single text box. We'll just get someone's name. I mean, you might be doing this anonymously, but for this, for reasons I'll show later, we're going to put a name in here. And then what you have to do is put in the question as the first box here. So this will be, what is your name? And then there's a variety of options here if you wanted to change the format of that text. The most important options are actually the ones down the bottom. So the input type here, this allows us to restrict the type of text that we allow for the answer. So we might want to just have numbers, and we'll do that in a minute when we ask for people's name, or it will check to see that someone's entered a valid email address here. But for now, we'll just choose any text because the name is going to be any text. You've got an option to have a single line response, which looks similar to this here, or a text box, which is more similar to this open-ended box here, where you can put in much longer responses. So we'll just choose one line. This is the width of it. So 40 wide will be plenty. I think 40 characters wide for a text response. And then this is an important option here, require response. So is this a mandatory question? Can someone not complete the form if they haven't answered this question? There's also a validation message here saying, so for example, if somebody doesn't put in the response here or puts in the wrong type, you can put in a pop-up message here that says why this is a required question. So for example, here we could put in, we need to know your name. So when that's done, you've got a couple of options up here. You can use the preview to see how that's going to look. You can use the logic option here. This will set the logic of the ordering of the question. And again, that's sort of an element of piping I talked about earlier, where you have one question lead on to other questions. But what we're actually going to do is use the save and add next, which is the most useful button. That saves this question, which we've put in here, and allows us to move on to the next one. So it automatically pops up with another question here we can enter. And what we're going to do here is choose another text box. And we're going to ask, what is your age? Now for this one, we're going to choose numbers only. Now this means that somebody can't put in text-based data. It has to be numerical data. And we're going to require a response for that one, and then go on to the next question. Right, let's try a different type of question now. So for example, let's try one of these multiple choice options. So let's use the multiple choice checkbox. That allows us to choose more than one answer to one question. So if we choose that here, we get a slightly different layout here. But first, of course, is the question. So what we will say is, how did you hear about our restaurant? And then we've got a series of options here. We can display this buttons or horizontal buttons, one column. We're going to leave these as the default for now. But basically what we want here is a series of answers which might be options, and people can tick the ones that they that apply to them. So we might say from newspaper, say advert, word of mouth. And if we want to add an extra value here, we just click on the plus button, and let's add walked by, walked past. We can also remove any of these, so maybe we'll remove newspaper here. And we can also, we'll require a response to this one. We can put in an additional comment field if we need to, not necessary here. So we'll save and close at this point, just so we can look at the questions that we've already put in there. Great, so now you can see we've got 3 questions already, and a little preview of how they'll look, which we can actually look at properly along the top with the test options here. So we've got a field for name, field for age, and this multiple choice tick box of how did you hear about a restaurant. If we want to change the order of any of these, all you have to do is click and drag these little arrow buttons around. And you can also add a question in between one of the questions. So we're going to keep going, add another couple of questions here because this is looking fine. So those are some of the options we've put in already. Let's put in one of these matrix of choices radio buttons. This is quite a slightly complicated one, but more, it'll make sense when it's been seen, I think. So for example, what we're going to put in here is, how would you rate our restaurant? And what we want to do here is get ratings for a variety of different sections here. So you'll see we've got answers for column headings. So this is the horizontal questions which we'll ask for each value. So what we're going to have here is how was the food? And then how was the service? Now you could say, please rank these different factors here. It's slightly different wording of the question, but just to keep it clear, we'll go on like this. And then how was the atmosphere? Now what we want to do is have a predefined list here of what the possible responses are going to be. So for example, we might want to go from very good to very bad. And fortunately, there are some very useful predefined answer sets here. So if you look at this box over to the right, and expand this, we've already got strongly agree, very appropriate, very above, much better, very easy, very effective. And then we've got excellent, good, neutral, fair, poor. That sounds perfect for ranking the food and service and atmosphere of our restaurant. So if we just choose that one, it'll automatically create those as separate categories here. And we can also change these if we want to. So maybe we don't like the word poor, but we want to change that to not good. And we can change that and that becomes the answer. So let's require a response for this one as well. So somebody has to fill this in. And then save and close so we can have a quick look and see how that looks like. So this should be quite a familiar thing here. I've actually done this the wrong way around to probably what would normally be the case. So here we've got excellent, good, neutral, fair, not good down this kind of list here. And then we've got the questions here. So let's go back and actually change that question and just make that the right way around. You see how easy it is to edit any of these questions we've created. So just click on the edit question button there. And what we'll do is change this basically round. So the column headings will be what we had before: excellent, good, fair, neutral, poor. And then the row headings, delete some of these and put in food. What's the service? That's all we need to change. So we'll click save and close. Okay, now that's a much more logical order. So we can go through here and choose a ranking for each of these different aspects. Now, I'm not going to go through all of the different options here. They're fairly self-explanatory, but these are the kind of main ones. Let's just add one more, a couple of more different options here. So let's choose this drag and drop ranking one. This is usually quite fun. So let's say, what is the most important aspect of our restaurant? So here we'll put in a series of answers for different factors of the restaurant to see what's most important to people. And they can rearrange these options so that the most important one is at the top and the least important is at the bottom. So we might want to put in things here like cost, service, quality of food, and that'll do for now. Won't require a response to this one. Save and close. So now what we can do is when we use the actual service, move and drag these around, as you can see. So cost is not important to me, as quality of food. Actually, cost is more important than service. So that way we can get a sense of people's order. Now, finally, let's add one last question, and we'll make that a long form text response. So basically we'll have a standard kind of open-ended response here. We make our service better. And this time we're going to change here from one line to a text box, which also gives us how high. So for a comment box like this, 40 wide, 6 high, I think that's going to be fine. So we save and close that. Now we've got, oh, it's a little small, but that would be fine. Now I've got an open-ended question in our survey as well. So now we're happy with the layout of our survey. We can move some of these if we want to. So maybe we want to move, okay, so let's move different pages. So we've only got one page at the moment, but we'll leave these as they are. And we'll just look at some of the settings first of all, but first of all, the theme manager here, which allows us to change the layout of how our survey will look. This is mostly a kind of cosmetic thing, but it's quite fun to play with. So if we click on the theme manager, what you'll see here is a variety of different templates, and you can look through these different styles. Big yellow taxi there, lots of ones with clouds, meadows, nighttime pictures, the nature one. So let's choose the cloud one here, and it gives us a little preview of how our survey will be formatted on the right. And we can edit this as well. So for example, if we think that, okay, we quite like this color scheme here, this is how it would look for us, but actually I'm not too keen on that cloud background, then we can actually remove that. So here, if we go to survey background and then clear, great, we can remove that image. And now we've got a plain background. So that looks fine to me. So when we're done with that, we can click on Save Theme. Great. And we'll click on the back button here to go back to our survey. There we are. Okay, so let's look at some of the settings we've got here. Probably by default, you won't need to change most of these, I shouldn't think. But you can set things like a start date and an end time for your survey. You can choose the time zone in which you want to collect the responses, which all of the responses will be tagged to. We can also, by looking at people's IP addresses, allow people to only take the survey once from their computer, or if they can do it multiple times. Again, we can use people's IP address here to block the responses. We can mean that people have to have an email invitation to do the response. We can also open or close the survey here. At the end of the survey, we can choose what to happen. So either we can show a pop-up message, we can show someone the results of the survey, or we can send them to another website. So this is a good way, when they finish the survey, you can send them to your web page to go back to what they were doing before. We'll just have them sent to the Quirkos website when they finished. Oh, it says you must include HTTP, so let's do that. Okay. Display options here, you can have a progress bar. So let's have progress bar there. Not very useful because we've only got one page for the survey. And then we can choose whether we have numbers for the questions. Let's turn that on. Randomize the question order if you wanted to experiment with and see whether the response is different if people are asked questions in a different way. Show the title of the survey, show which questions are required. At the moment, the required questions have this little asterisk next to them, but we could say required like this instead. It's not very nice. Let's just go back to the star. And the miscellaneous options here. Basically, you can have the completed surveys emailed to you every time they get forwarded. Change some little things here. Password protect access to the survey, etc., etc. So save all of those options and let's see how it looks. So if we look at this test button here and click on the preview survey, so basically here's a pop-up and this is exactly how the survey looks for us. So we can put in our name, and what's your age, how did you hear about a restaurant, this is multiple choice, so I saw an advert and someone told me about it. I can rate, thought the food was excellent, the service was fine, the atmosphere was fair. We can change our mind, but there's only one option we can have for these. It's the most important aspect, so well, we can drag these around here and then that will change the response here. So quality of food is probably first, and service, then cost. We don't have to have all of those options here, so maybe only service and quality of food are important. How can we make our service better? Wear hats. That would greatly improve my dining experience. So, and then we can click finish survey. And there we go, we get sent to the Quirkos website. So everything worked there fine. So when we're happy with that, we can click on the launch button here. And that makes the survey live. It means that people can start adding responses. And it also means that you get a link which you can share with other people. So here you've got various different options to how you want to show the link. So it will give you an option for HTML code to put into your website. Probably the thing you most want though is the normal link, just something that you can copy and paste into your survey, into your email of who you're inviting the survey to, or link from your website. You can also put something, for example, here, if you put in Quirkos restaurant, you can have a slightly more memorable link than this random string of letters and numbers here. So you can customize your survey response here. You also get a little QR code here. So for example, you could put this on your menu and then people can scan this with their smartphone and get taken straight into the survey page where they can put in their feedback. So that might work quite well for this particular response. This file here gives you a link here where you can download it and you just save this image and basically put it anywhere where you want to print it or show it on the screen. So now let's take that survey link there. Open up a new tab and let's pretend we're someone actually doing the survey and put in the response. And here's our survey all up and running. So let's quickly put in, I'm just going to put in 2 fake responses just so that we can have some data to play with and to export. Quickly put in some random responses here. Great. And put in one more survey. Have name here. Person walked past. Impressed with the food. More impressed with the service atmosphere. Service cost. Good. Make our service better. And a survey. So while that process is going on here, we can go back to our dashboard here. This is our survey tool here. And you can see here's a couple of surveys I've got here. Test survey I've used before. Here's our restaurant survey. That's great. So if we click on that, the restaurant survey there, we can see what's going on there, and we can also see the results. So let's click on that. And you can see, great. Oh, we've got 2 responses already from Sarah and Daniel. That's why we put the names in. That helps for this stage. And then we've got summaries, statistics for all the different questions we've got here. So we've got a range of people's ages from 22 to 33. The average is 27.5. Fairly useless when you've only got 2 people. The number of different responses we have for this question, what people said. Okay, so 50% of people said excellent, good. Okay, right. Nothing particularly interesting coming up here. And here are the open-ended responses to the orders taken quickly or make it free. That seems pretty unlikely. So now we've got this data. We can print it out like this, but probably the most useful thing to do is to export it into some other format. I'll just quickly take you through doing that and bring it into Quirkos, which we touched on very quickly last time. So here you can choose which responses you want to include. So we've only got 2 here, but it may be that you want to include all of the responses you've had or only the most recent ones, for example. So you could do that here by putting in a time and date. So we only want the responses which happened like in the last day or the last couple of days or something like that. We also want to see people's IP address. We also want the numerical answers in there. The compact format seems to be the one that works best. And then you've got a choice of different formats here. So probably the 2 most useful are going to be the Excel format, and also probably even more useful, the comma separated values format. This is basically a spreadsheet format that you can still open in Excel, but can also import into a variety of other packages like SPSS and qualitative analysis packages like Quirkos. So that way we can do some more explorations of the data. So let's do that. Let's click download and get our data out here. So this pops up just as a download here. And if we open that, it's going to open in Excel by default. So these are the responses that we've got from our question. Now to put it into Quirkos, there's only one thing you need to do, and that's remove this first line here, which just gives the question number. Basically just because it's probably more useful rather for you to have a number for each question to have actually the question itself, which is in the column below. So if you delete that, then you get what is your name, what is your age, etc., and then the values in here. So let's save that. Again, make sure that's as a CSV file. Comment eliminated, I think, is the best type really here. And let's put that on the desktop so we can find that easily. I'll call this restaurant. Okay. Always comes up with this warning, just letting you know that this CSV format can't support things like multiple workbooks or graphs or things like that. But that's fine for the basic data we have. So now what we can do is, whoops, if we bring up Quirkos here, let's start a new project and call this restaurant And now what we can do is with the plus button here, this brings in data from different places. We can choose import sources from CSV and choose that file, which is on the desktop, I think. And there we go. And now it's showing us all of the different values which we can bring in. And it's basically suggesting which ones should be treated as a source property or a question or the source title to be ignored. So I don't really need the session ID here, so I'm going to ignore that. That's just the unique number which is given to each person. It's not very useful to me here. Or the email address. We didn't even actually include people's email addresses in this, but we could have chosen that. So we'll ignore that too. The first name, well, I think we'll probably, so for example, here there's a whole bunch of things which have been taken from default properties which have been put in there. So I think we'll probably ignore all of those. Probably something we should have turned off when we were doing the export there. And we're also not interested in this metadata that's collected here, the start time, the end time, so how long people did to do the survey. Oh, well, maybe that's of interest to us. So we'll choose that as a property. It also can show people's IP address here, but here's the actual questions that we asked at the end. So the name, let's make that the source title. Then that will mean that each person's response is given identified by their name rather than number. The age should be a property there. And then here we've got these kind of tick boxes for whether it was word of mouth, advert, or past, how's the food, how's the service, the atmosphere, blah, 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 and how we can make our service better. That should be a question. So that's an open-ended question. And then if we click on the import button, we should see there we've got our text responses. So the 211, that's the ranking for the exercise there. So we've got the text here that we can analyze and start doing some coding with. And if we click on the properties here, we can see this is how long it took to do the survey. Not very long. The IP address, someone's age, and the different responses that they gave for different questions. So this person walked past, no advert, they weren't interested in word of mouth, etc., etc. And with the tabs here, we can work between all the different sources we brought in. There's only 2 there. So very quickly, we've been able to do a survey, get some responses, and now we can start analyzing these responses and seeing whether people, particular ages, are seeing different things using the query reviews here and the side-by-side comparisons. We can generate reports, and when we've done coding here, we can compare the different topics that we've put in here. So that's basically how we can go basically all the way from starting a survey, designing it, and bringing it into Quirkos. So hopefully that was useful to you. Let me know if you've got any questions here. So have a quick look and see if anybody's typed up any responses. No. So if you've got any questions or anything else you'd like me to cover in this session, just let me know. Otherwise, that's probably everything I was going to cover for today. Do check out, we've got a blog post article, which I'll post the link to when this goes up on YouTube, which also talks you through this in a text-based way. So if you prefer reading rather than following a long video guide, and also some other options that we've got on the Quirkos website for hosting surveys if you need more control and more feedback than eServe offer us. So hopefully this helps with your mixed methods and qualitative and quantitative surveys. Always get in touch if there's anything you want us to cover, and good luck with your research. Thank you very much.